I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you for joining us on Closing Arguments. It's a tough story to talk about, but there are things that we are finding out that are incredibly troubling and somewhat confusing. And I want to try to shed a little more light on it tonight. And of course, we're talking about the case involving Madeline Soto, one of the last photos, if not the last photo of her from her 13th birthday party at a relative's house. Her mom wasn't there. When she went home, her mom still wasn't home, but guess who was? Her so-called on-again, off-again boyfriend, Stephan Sterns. And Stephan Sterns is the one that got her ready for bed, and then for whatever reason in the world, which none of us can figure out, Madeline's mom sent these two downstairs or upstairs to the guest room while she slept by herself. Mom sleeping by herself. She wanted to sleep in. I worked late. I don't want anyone to bother me in the morning. So why don't you two go share a bed in another room alone? That actually happened. That actually happened. Now, we're learning more about what this dynamic was between Stephan Sterns and his victim, his alleged victim, Madeline Soto. This is Madeline apparently was speaking with a counselor at school. An investigator spoke to the counselor. Madeline reported that her mom's boyfriend was living in the home and she didn't like him because he was weird. When she pressed the counselor, Madeline, about why she felt he was weird, she claimed it was because he ate all their food, hangs out in their living room, and makes her feel uncomfortable. Madeline reported in December that mom's boyfriend was moving out of the home, and that made her happy. She also never disclosed anything inappropriate happening between her and her mother's boyfriend. Since December, she started to report things were getting better at home and at school. Their last check-in was on February 6, 2024, and Madeline reported that she was really happy and things were good with mom and at school. Okay. One more interview. This is with Madeline's friend. Remember, she's 13 years old. Madeline's friend further stated that Madeline only mentioned her biological father briefly, but she was always on a call with her stepdad, Stephan. Stephan and Madeline were always texting each other or talking on the phone. Madeline loved him, and they were really close. Stephan is Madeline's mom's boyfriend, and he's been in her life for a long period of time. Stephan recently moved out of the home, but he still visits often. Stephan and Madeline's mom were also very close. Madeline talks to Stephan at least 2 to 3 times a week on the phone, but also texts with him. She usually talks to him on the phone in the afternoon and at night. And then it's either Madeline or Madeline's friend described Stephan as very interested in Madeline, and Madeline would tell him about things going on at school. Madeline never disclosed to her anything inappropriate that Stephan said or did, and she's never witnessed anything inappropriate between Madeline and Stephan. Normally, Madeline's mom or grandparents bring her to school. She does not recall a time when Stephan has ever brought Madeline to school. So that's from her friend. Let me bring in our experts and our guests. Joining us in Orlando, Florida, psychotherapist and CEO of Life Counseling Solutions, Dr. Janie Lacey. True crime live streamer on YouTube, Gray Hughes of Gray Hughes Investigates, who yesterday released a brand new episode diving into all of these Madeline Soto documents. Check it out after the show, not before, but after or during. Also joining us, forensic criminologist Dr. Laura Petler, and finally also in Orlando, editor of the Osceola News-Gazette, Ken Jackson is with us. Dr. Janie Lacey, I'm going to begin with you on this, what I just read from the counselor, from Madeline's friend. What do you hear in this? What do you sense? What does it mean about the dynamic and what was going on here?
Well, what that would mean to me is that Madeline knew that she had to probably keep this as a secret. And this probably happened very early on, right? When we think about threatening her and secrecy and perhaps understanding some type of consequences, abusers normally put some type of fear out there and they control the relationship. So as her friend was describing the constant texting and communication, abusers normally will control that relationship, but they do it methodically because over time there's been trust that's been built and there's been a connection and there's probably been some level of isolation, and probably she's been used to him being a resource to her and the mom. So when I hear the interview by the therapist, I would also hear that there was obviously some concern there, but this part would probably be the deep dark secret that she was keeping.
Ken Jackson, as I'm listening to this, it seems an incredibly thorough investigation. They're speaking to everyone connected to Madeline. Of course, it began as a missing person, then became a murder investigation. But from what we're hearing, it doesn't seem like Madeline told anyone about this.
Right, and what I've seen from the documents so far, it just seems like there isn't that triggering term that, say, a counselor would be overly concerned about to take the investigation to the next step. You know, Madeline kept this close to the vest if this was happening at home. She gave little pieces like Stephanie creeps me out. He's home all of the time. But nothing that would, overly concern an expert. I mean, this is a pattern of behavior in cases like this where there's abuse at home from an authority figure at home, and it's really actually sad to see that there wasn't just that little extra to make someone else outside a counselor or someone like that investigate more.
Absolutely. I want to read this, Greg, because this is another disturbing incident here. A coworker who I guess dated or had some sort of relationship with Sterns came forward. You know, this thing is so high profile. The coworker stated that Stephan Sterns told her, although he was separated from his girlfriend, he still slept at Jen's residence and specifically in bed with Madeline. The coworker said that Stephan Sterns justified this behavior by saying he needed to cuddle with her so she could fall asleep. The coworker further recalled a conversation she had with Stephan Sterns where he told her that he woke up in bed with Madeline with an erection and had to turn around in the bed. He's telling this to a woman he's dating. The coworker felt the comments Stephan Sterns made to her about sleeping with Madeline were inappropriate, and she stopped talking to him. He is saying this stuff out loud, Gray, out loud to a woman that he's in some sort of a dating relationship with. Like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, what was he thinking that she would be excited about that? I mean, did she have a daughter herself, and he thought maybe he could try? I mean, we don't know what the hell this guy's thinking, but that makes absolutely no sense that you would say that to a woman as if they would react in some positive way. I mean, her reaction was exactly how it would be.
Yeah.
Just creeped out.
Creeped out, get away from me. I don't need to talk to you anymore. Dr. Laura Pettler, looking at this case and trying to understand how he could get away with this for so long. For so long, the allegations are it's going back years, this abuse. But it seems from everything we're hearing, he continued it even though he wasn't with Jen. Like, he's not even sleeping with the mother. He's just going over to the house to apparently abuse Madeline.
Right, Vinny, yes, it does appear that way. And in cases like this that we see that do result in violent crime or homicide, it's very often that the statements of the victim are not analyzed from like a statement analysis standpoint or from like a qualitative victimology standpoint. So sometimes it can be overlooked by professionals, or it's not caught by professionals that are counselors or otherwise, to the red flags that we would actually catch in statement analysis. So for him to be continuing to do this and her to be keeping a secret, a lot of times these offenders groom the victims to believe that they are actually having a secret relationship. And it sounded to me like, from the friend standpoint, that it's possible that there might have been something like that going on. It's very difficult for me to know because I can't actually hear or read what Madeline's words were exactly. That would be much more informative to me than the summation of it. So I think that it's very common in these types of cases. We've seen this, unfortunately, many times. And to keep a secret is definitely a motive for murder.
All right, Dr. Janie Lacey, I want you to listen to Stephan Sterns in his police interview. And again, this is another one of these creepy moments of Stephan Sterns.
She brings a lot of joy. She's a very good girl. It definitely doesn't feel the same around here if she's not here. She was so happy, too. She was looking forward to my visit here. She was looking forward to us all being together. She was just happy. She was just very happy. I loved her like she was my own.
Do you hear? He's like raising himself up, right? Like, I'm the one who makes her happy. It's me. And we heard the exact opposite of what Madeline was telling her school counselor.
Absolutely. He's in a position of power. So him and these statements are very delusional and probably was projecting onto her what he wanted in this delusions, because we know the absolute, her words from the therapist, uncomfortable, and him being in the home. So we know that her reality was very different, but he was in a position of power. So he can create that relationship to however he wanted it to be in these positions of power, and these abusers when they do that. So they operate from this sadistic almost fantasy. And it sounds like to me that that's exactly what he was doing.
Dr. Janie Lacey, appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so much. Our other guests are staying with us. When we come back, we are going to take a look at some new information that we're learning about Stephan Sterns. Again, there are hundreds and hundreds of documents. We're going through it piece by piece, but we have some real insight coming up next.
A-list actor Alec Baldwin is cast in the real-life role he never wanted.
I try and cock the gun, the gun goes off.
Criminal defendant.
His lack of gun safety is something that he's going to have to answer for.
We heard that this was a toxic set.
One more.
It's not his fault. He did nothing wrong.
Is there an actor's exemption from liability when they're handling a deadly firearm?
The Alec Baldwin manslaughter trial. Live coverage coming this July, only on Court TV.
We have a very strong bond. But, you know, I'm the person she goes to when her mom gets in a fight with her and she needs someone to comfort her. And like, I'm that person for her, you know. This girl knows nothing but love here in this house.
Once again, Stephan Sterns raising himself up. I am the great one here. It didn't take long for investigators to uncover and peel back all these lies that he is telling right out of the gate. Take a look at this from his police interview on February 28th. While speaking with Stephan, I noticed he was wearing a blue shirt. In the videos from earlier in the day, Stephan was observed wearing a red shirt. Stephan stated he had not changed clothes since the previous morning and did not believe he had showered either. Let's bring back in our guests, Gray Hughes from Gray Hughes Investigates, Dr. Laura Petler and Ken Jackson. Ken, it seems very quickly they are able to uncover a bunch of lies here from Stephan Sterns. I mean, that is something that is so obvious, and so quickly they are onto this guy.
Yeah, well, it's funny. In the first couple days of this case, you know, he was interviewed multiple times, interviewed by detectives, by police, by the media, and I'm sure that saying these things over and over, they became pretty rehearsed. Well, like we said, that, you know, these things the stories have unraveled. I mean, you know, we hear him in the interviews. You know, she was looking forward to my visit. This is the same girl that said that, well, he creeps me out when he's at my house. I'm the person she goes to. She knows nothing but love. Well, we've seen the multiple number of allegations against him that all these things he was saying, it's all a cover-up.
Huge cover-up, and not just, like making himself out to be the best part of Madeline's life. And this was it couldn't be less true. It's the exact opposite of that. Gray, this one really jumped out to me too, where Stephan Sterns allegedly spying on his roommate. It should be noted, prior to the search of Stephan's apartment, I was advised there were photographs located on Stephan's phone where he appeared to record his roommate in secret. While at the apartment, I was able to utilize Stephan's cell phone and recreate the angle and contents of the photographs by placing his cell phone under the crack of the roommate's bedroom door. Wow. What, do we have any more context for what's going on here?
We actually do, and you know what? You almost read my mind. It's absolutely unbelievable. I was going to talk about that specific thing because I interviewed 4 different people that were friends with Stephan Sterns, and that's the video that I just re-released again. In one of the interviews, one of his roommates found a file on in a server that's in the house because they played video games, and inside this folder, it had pictures of his girlfriend, like in the bathroom. So he was doing the same thing in his early 20s. So it kind of makes you wonder what has been going on all these years. It's starting to feel like it's possible there's more victims out there because this is something that's been going on for a long period of time. There's even another incident by another one of his friends that said that he went over to his house and was trying to film his mom with a camera through a door, and he got caught by the father of this friend. So this guy has been doing this stuff for a long time.
All right, Dr. Laura Petler, I want you to take a look at some of the evidence that was collected here. And what does it tell you? From his bedroom, a 6-hour P365 9mm pistol and rounds. It is Florida. A lot of people have weapons in Florida. From the center console of his car, latex gloves, cloth gloves, a knife. From the trunk, white rope, black netting. What are your thoughts here?
These items are consistent with disposal in a murder case. Sometimes they buy them before the actual murder itself. Sometimes they plan ahead and they buy these things and put them in the car or any of the temporary crime scenes that they're going to use to transport the body. One thing that's important to recognize about those items in relation to Madeline being in the vehicle is that when offenders kill in their own environment, a lot of times they most often actually will remove the body from that location. But if they kill a victim in the victim's environment, they often leave the body lie. So what it's telling me is that the video is consistent with the items from the standpoint that he had her body in his vehicle and he was using those items in relation to executing his plan to dispose of her body.
What are your thoughts about other potential victims out there, Dr. Petler?
Vinny, that is like hitting the nail on the head. There's, unfortunately, in these cases, it's kind of like you get one victim that comes forward and then they all just start coming out of the woodwork. And I would not be surprised to see that in this case. It's very common to see them hide cameras in bathrooms, above the toilet, in front of the toilet, any angle that they can get to capture those types of images of other people that they're actually not sexually abusing physically. So like all of this goes hand in hand with being a sexual deviant, being a sexual sex offender type person that has these challenges and these issues that he clearly is dealing with, and then masking them under the guise of this gaslighting type power and control facade of, I am so great and I am doing all this for all of these victims. It's unfortunately, we hear that a lot from sex offenders.
I'm just going to put this out there, folks. Sterns caught with some form of lotion. At approximately 11:30, I assisted with searching a room in the residence on the second floor, identified by a chrome number 4 on the outside of the door. Inside of the room, I located a black backpack, which had 1 orange bottle of Solo lotion in it. The back of the bottle identified the product as masturbation cream. Does anyone want to say anything about that? We can just leave it there.
It goes hand in hand with everything else that we've heard.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dr. Dr. Pettler, did you have something on that?
Yes, I mean, another behavioral pattern that we see in these types of offenders is where they actually will go and sit somewhere and watch other types of victims, you know, where they're not actually physically assaulting them, but they're in their own contained space, they're in their own vehicle, and they're watching them say, for example, a park or a parking lot or somewhere else where they can actually see what is triggering them, what is sexually arousing them, and then, of course, the items that are used for their own means.
All right, everyone's staying with us. Coming up next, we're going to track Madeline's body and where it was transported, what we have found out, and the state of the body and what it tells us.
Our detectives have determined that Madeline was never dropped off on the morning of February 26th near her school. Instead, we believe she was already dead at the time and that Stephan Sterns moved her body in the early morning hours on that day.
Already dead, moving her body in the early morning hours. We heard that early on, but now we have a much clearer picture of what the basis of all of this is. And it raises the question of when was she killed? Can we tell from this when she was killed? Let's take a look at how we're tracking all this. Jen stated the last time she had physically seen Madeline was on February 25th, 2024, 2300 hours, 11 o'clock at night, when she sent her to bed with Stephan Sterns. Next day, 7:35, videos captured the trash compactor on the property show a male determined to be Stephan Sterns. Sterns threw a white trash bag filled with items inside the trash compactor before pulling away. A female, believed to be Madeline, is visible in the front passenger seat. Her head is visible, tilted on her left shoulder, and her mouth was open. She was belted into the seat. Sterns is then spotted leaving the complex in his Lincoln through the rear gate at 7:50 with a female wearing a green sweater in the front seat. The person appeared to be sitting upright with her head slumped over to her left side. 8:19, the Lincoln appears at the front gate, and Sterns interacts with the security guard before being allowed to enter. 8:31, he leaves through the rear gate, again with a female and the front passenger completely slumped over to the left. Then this is the big one that we learned. 9:40, the vehicle turned into the Holiday Inn Club Vacations property, proceeded to the parking garage. Male exits the vehicle, opens the trunk, walks to the front passenger side, opens the door, and carries what appears to be a limp body to the trunk of the vehicle. Then witnesses see him pull off of Hickory Tree Road, tire iron in his hand. The witness made eye contact, stated he was not exactly sure, but it was around 13:20, 1:20 in the afternoon. Let's bring back in our guest. We have one more expert we're adding to our panel. A board-certified forensic pathologist, Dr. Priya Banerjee, joining the rest of our guests, Gray Hughes, Dr. Laura Pettler, and Ken Jackson. Dr. Banerjee, let me ask you this. I'm going to describe the way she's being described, and from this, what does it tell you? Again, tilted on her left shoulder with her mouth open, belted into the seat. Then next, she's seen upright with her head slumped over to the left side. Then she is seen completely slumped over to the left. And then an hour after that, an hour and 10 minutes after that, her body is limp as she's carried out. what time could this murder have taken place if all of these things begin at 7:35 in the morning and she's still limp at 9:40?
Probably, I mean, what you're getting at is what rigor mortis or postmortem changes. And so we have to think, that usually starts 2 hours or so after death. So I'm thinking he killed her and then put her in the car, making it look like she's sleeping, trying to fool everybody, right? And then has this whole incident with the tire iron.
Well, let me ask you this. Would the body be limp like that if she's murdered the night before, 6.5 hours beforehand?
I think that's less likely. I think it was more towards the morning because your rigor mortis in general forms 8 to 12 hours and is really peaked 12 to 24 hours. So we would be hitting that real stiff period, barring any other exposure or, chemicals, whatever, if it's going more textbook, if you will. And so I think, this young, healthy girl was probably killed closer to the morning. I'm not saying she wasn't hurt or harmed in any way prior to that, but absolutely killed was probably closer to the morning.
Okay, Gray Hughes, 8:19. Why is he going back at 8:19 and then leaving at 8:31? Because to even get into the complex at 8:19, he's got to speak with the security guard, and she's got to be right next to him.
Yeah, I mean, she's seen on camera 3 times, 7:50, 8:19, 8:31, and actually a 4th time at 9:40, right? And so at 8:19, he comes back, but what is he doing between 8:19 and 8:31 when it leaves again? She would still have to be propped up in the car, but did he cover her with a blanket because somebody might have walked by? And then what was interesting about what in that press conference that officer said was that we believe that she was moved in the early morning hours. That doesn't seem to be actually quite accurate unless you're just talking about her being moved around for display purposes. She was moved around almost like, I hate to say it, but like Weekend at Bernie's, where he's just driving around. She wants to be seen. I mean, he wants her to be seen in the car because we know that her body was eventually moved. He had already gone back to the apartment, waited for a while, and then at like 12:45, he took off with her body to place her where she was eventually found.
Dr. Laura Petler, this almost strikes me as some form of staging, like staging an alibi and a story of what he's doing that morning.
Yes, we here call that linguistic staging, Vinny. And basically it's what we've talked about before in other cases. It's the fiber of truth and the thread of every lie. And all of these behaviors meet his needs. And again, he is in control. He's in power here. So he is staging both visually and linguistically so that he can, of course, avoid apprehension and get away with what he's doing. But it is his plan. And sometimes they have a plan, but sometimes they don't. And it sounds to me like, he's one of those offenders that gets into what we call cognitive overload once you murder someone, and they forget certain details. And like the issue of the rigor mortis and the time of death, I was thinking the very same thing. The body is limp and then the body is slumped over and all of these things. Yeah, it's absolutely an element of staging. It meets the definition of staging, which is to misdirect a death investigation before the police arrive or to just, cause some kind of white noise. And that's what he's doing.
Ken Jackson, this Holiday Inn Club Vacations property, I don't know if you've been by there yet. Do we know anything about this? Is there any sort of connection, or does it look like it may have just been a place he thought he could go and transfer the body to the trunk without people seeing him?
Right. Well, the report says that he went to the top level of the parking garage. Let's see, this would have been on a Monday. It's not a real busy day for resorts, especially in February. It's before spring break starts. So this area, it's not really. It's almost like a low season for the tourism industry here. So he may have thought that it would be a place that had fewer people. They, like I said, he went to the top of the garage. If the male moved the body there, so he was not within eyesight of it. What's funny is this whole scenario from the morning where he's seen at the dumpster to the afternoon where he's found on Hickory Tree Road. This is all happening in broad daylight. It's kind of an odd time for someone who's going to be moving a body.
Yeah.
And we also don't really have a whole lot of clarity between 9:40 when he's found at the Holiday Inn Vacation Club and that 1 o'clock hour where he's seen on Hickory Tree Road.
Now, let's go to the part where the police discover Madeline's body. We noticed what appeared to be a body. The top half of the body was covered by a green-colored hooded sweatshirt, and the bottom half was covered in blue jeans. The body was laying on the left side in somewhat of a fetal position. It appeared that the body was covered by tiny pieces of hay or dry grass. Based on my training experience, it was apparent this was a human body. I did not see any signs of life. I could clearly see flies covering the body. Now, the description from the medical examiner. She was observed in a state of decomposition with visible insect activity around her mouth, left eye, ears, and right hand. Discoloration was observed on her face, neck, torso, back, and hands. Dr. Priya Banerjee, what can we glean from that?
Oh, as the mother of a young daughter, it's going to take everything in me to not be teary on TV. But in all seriousness, trying to set that aside of just how sad a case this is. You know, it's hot in Florida. This is a open sort of wooded area when we, the team was visited previously, and it's an open stretch of road. So this is a very typical area where all sorts of insect, animal activity can take place, and this is very characteristic, in terms of decomposition and insect activity. Insects are gonna, feed on the body. That's just a normal reaction to anything decaying. So flies don't know the difference, the human body decaying or animal matter decaying. And they're going to lay eggs, and then they grow into more mature flies through their life cycle. So then they feed on the body. And also the environment, the heat will dry out, sort of, decompose and darken her, normal light complexion. And I'm sure they had to go through what I would say alternate means of identifying her. She's no longer recognizable based on that state of decomposition.
Let me ask you one more thing, Dr. Banerjee. I have a timeline here. 11 o'clock, Madeline, that's the last time she's seen alive, right? So now 6.5 later takes us to 7:35. 7:35 to 9:40, Madeline is in Sterns' front seat for about 2 hours. 9:40 through 1:15, Madeline is in Sterns' trunk roughly 3.5 hours. And then Madeline is outside in a field a little over 4 days, about 100 hours. That trunk for 3.5 hours, would you expect there to be some evidence of her being there?
Quite potentially. I'm not a DNA analyst, but I'm sure detectives...
Well, what's happening to the body? What's happening to the body?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in and of itself, that's acting like an oven, right? I mean, if you think about it, it's a metal box that in hot weather, nonetheless, there's going to be skin cells transferred potentially, maybe some fluids forming. So I think it's a very important step to look at that trunk. You can connect her placement.
Yeah. Dr. Laura Petler, which do you think is going to be richer with evidence here? The field where she's found or the car where she's being transported all these hours?
The car, simply because it's going to be indicative of, again, time of death. And then once she's moved out there, I don't know what was found with her, but I did see that there was something about, there was physical evidence found with her body. Who knows what he was trying to stage out there? Was he trying to stage a missing person, sexual assault, and then some kind of a dump, an abduction type or runaway or something like that. So I don't know exactly, but I believe that the car contains more evidence in a lot of these cases than a lot of times the dump site, because it's such a from the forensic path standpoint, same thing. There's such a large amount of decomposition and animal activity. Things can get strewn around. The car is a contained environment, and so sometimes a lot more information can be gleaned from that.
All right, Gray Hughes, as we sit here tonight, and I know you've gone through all these documents, are there any holes in this timeline, questions you have about a certain period of time or parts of the movement, either the night before or during that day?
I mean, we're not really going to get the answers of every little thing that was happening in between, you know, like 11 o'clock at night and 7 in the morning. But just listening to this conversation right here, it's made me really start wondering about something. Was Madeline actually not dead in those videos that we saw, that she was just really drugged and just out? Because we're talking about, there's such a fine line with the rigor mortis that you were talking about, and she was limp, it seems like, for at least 2 hours there. So she would have had to have been killed at like 5 in the morning to still be limp when she was carried out of the car.
Yeah.
To put in the trunk.
Wow.
So isn't that interesting? I mean,
yeah.
Maybe in that hotel he actually strangled her and then put her into the trunk right then.
Dr. Priya Banerjee, Gray Hughes, Dr. Laura Petler, Ken Jackson, thank you so much for your valuable time and your great insight. We'll do it again.